Chapter 5. Earth Person gains greater perspective. Earth Person. Martian? Yes. How am I ever going to remember all these things I've been learning lately? Would you be willing to turn your question into a statement? Oh, that again. How do you know I want to make a statement? I hear you wanting to make a statement. Since I trust my perceptions, I know with absolute certainty that you want to make a statement. Whether you make it or not, it's up to you. What kind of statement? A statement about yourself and about how you have trouble remembering the things we've been talking about. All right. I'm willing to make a statement like that, but will you tell me what this is all about? I still don't understand why I ask you a question when I really want to make a statement. People like to keep things from themselves. They only assume responsibility for acting on information that they admit to themselves they possess. But why would anyone want to do that? Would you make the statement you just said you'd make? The one about remembering all the things we've been learning? Well, it's hard for me to put into words, but seeing isn't quite as easy as I expected. That's not a statement about remembering. Oh, I've been having some trouble remembering to see, especially when I need to do it most. Like in the middle of an argument, when I thought I'd be able to see what I was doing and then be able to change the future course of the argument, well, I can't. In fact, I don't even think about seeing until after the argument is over. So the statement is, I can't remember to see, especially when I really need to. Now that's the kind of statement I spoke about when I said people like to keep things from themselves. See how hard it was to get you to say that? Yeah, I sure kept trying to avoid it. Do you know what the avoidance was about? Well, it's embarrassing to admit that you can't remember something when you need to. Is it that part of you doesn't remember and another part of you feels embarrassed when it finds that out? Sort of. Well, what is this? Are you saying I've got a split personality or something? In a sense, but it's not unusual. All Earth people are comprised of separate parts. Each part may either agree or disagree with each of the other parts, and each part may have information the others don't want to hear. Boy, you're really pushing me. You're asking me to believe a lot. I'm not asking you to believe. I'm speaking of my observations. You can observe this too. You mean if I really looked at people, I'd see them comprised of separate parts? Absolutely. Well, I'll really have to think that one over, but before we go any further, would you do me a favor? I'm still bothered by this stuff about making statements instead of asking questions. Okay, what's bothering you? Well, I started this conversation back at the beginning by asking you how I could remember all these things I've been learning. I really need something to help me remember. Now, it seems to me that asking you that sort of question is a better way of getting help than making any sort of statement. Statements don't obtain help. When you said, how am I going to remember all these things I've been learning? I heard you wanting to make a statement about having trouble remembering. If you also wanted to ask me for a method to help you remember, you were saying two separate things. The way to do that is to make the statement and then ask the question, rather than ask me just one question that avoids the statement and keeps me in the dark about your real need for help. Okay, you win. I guess it wouldn't hurt to make a statement and then ask the question. No, don't feel grudging about it. It's more important that you've acknowledged. It's actually better to do both. It helps you hear yourself, and it helps you to stop hiding information from yourself. Well, all right, if you say so. I hear you saying that you agree with me, but my perceptions tell me that you really don't. You don't have to agree with me. It is not an issue of agreement or disagreement. You also don't have to turn your questions into statements if you don't want to. Well, if that's the case, why have you kept insisting that I do just that? I haven't insisted. Each time you've asked a question that was really a statement, I've told you what I heard. I've told you of my perceptions. I'm willing not to tell you of my perceptions if you prefer. No, I certainly don't want that. Then I'd have no way of ever learning to see and hear like a Martian. But it's still a dilemma for me. If I agree to continue to hear your perceptions, then I have to be prepared to listen to you tell me that I'm secretive, that I keep information for myself. Yes, you'll also have to give up your fantasy about not keeping information from yourself. This is one of those moments of clarity I spoke of earlier. But who are you to say it's a fantasy? You seem angry. You didn't answer my question. I'm telling you my perception. What? That I'm angry? Yes. Were you aware of it? Of course I was aware of it. What do you think I am, stupid? You do not now appear to be aware of it. All right. I see what you mean. I was getting carried away with myself. What was the anger about? I don't know. Yes, you do. Tell me. Boy, you're really pushy today. I was angry because you think I keep things from myself. So I get angry because I don't keep things from myself. That doesn't fit with my perception. Who are you to say what fits or not? Just who do you think you are? You're angry again. What do you want of me? I want you to say that I don't keep things from myself. That doesn't fit with my perception. I have no reason to say something that is different from what I perceive. Who says your perceptions are the right ones? You're still angry. So I am. What's going on anyway? You're at a moment of clarity, as I said before. Your anger is directed at having to make a choice between clarity and fantasy. I don't have to make a choice if I don't want to. No, you don't. But if you don't choose to see clearly, I'll disappear. Whoa, what do you mean? I have no interest in supporting your fantasies. I know what I see and hear. They are my perceptions. Your conversation about them right now is not relevant to me. I don't want you to disappear. Then you must make a choice. Staying stuck is not helpful. You must either go forward with me and become clearer, or go backward by yourself to your old fantasies. If you go backward and return to your fantasies, I'll disappear. It won't pose a problem for you, however, because from that point on, you'll be able to think of me as a fantasy. I won't be a threat to you. This is a moment of clarity. The choice is yours. But if you leave me, I won't be able to learn to see like a Martian, and I won't be able to change my life. Correct. But that's not a problem for most Earth people. They often choose to stay stuck or to move backwards. Well, not me. Oh? Yeah, I've got to learn to see. Going back is too miserable. Okay then. Tell me about these different parts of yourself and how one part keeps information from the other. Well, I've never thought of myself as having separate parts. I've always thought of myself more as having just one part that changed a lot. Like one moment I'd feel relaxed and comfortable, and the next tense and irritable. That's very perceptive, but not entirely accurate. It's a matter of focus. You've been focusing on yourself as a totality. If you were to focus instead on your separate parts, you'd experience that you in fact didn't change, but merely alternated your separate parts. How is that? You're comprised of separate parts. You don't change, and your parts don't change. At least, not very much. Your parts merely take turns surfacing. They appear, and then they disappear. Then they reappear all over again. Each part is different enough from the others so that together, as they come and go, they give the appearance that you're constantly changing. You're really not. But what is this about focusing? If you focus on yourself as a totality, you'll appear to be changing as each of your parts take turns emerging. This is how you've seen yourself in the past. But if you focus instead on your separate parts, you'll see that you really remain constant, merely alternating parts. So in the past, when I thought I was changing, I really wasn't? I was just switching parts? That's almost right. Actually, different parts of you were assuming control of your actions at different times. Does that mean that these separate parts don't operate simultaneously? Right. They're usually activated one at a time. When one is operating, the others are usually dormant. For example, look at this conversation we've been having. Not long ago, you were angry, denying that you had separate parts, ready to fall back on your fantasies. In fact, you probably would have returned to your fantasies if I hadn't told you that I disappear. Then you underwent a switch. You mentioned that you were aware of changes that seemed to occur in you, like when you changed from being relaxed to being tense and irritable. Then you started openly discussing your separate parts. I did, didn't I? Yes. Now tell me about how your parts keep information from each other. Oh, well, it happened just now, a minute ago. One part of me actually denied the existence of the other parts. It didn't even want to acknowledge the possibility they exist. It got angry. Another part is obviously willing to discuss this in great detail. Very good. How many parts are there? 4. 2 you were born with, and 2 that developed after birth. Would you tell me about them? Certainly. Some very clever Earth people have even given them names. The 2 you were born with are called the natural child and the adult. The natural child is the source of all your feelings. It provides your emotional responses to life. It's intuitive, spontaneous, and creative, and it acts very much as a young child naturally would. Does it act like I did when I was a child? Exactly. You've got the idea. The adult part of you, on the other hand, has nothing to do with your age, nor with being grown up or mature. As its name might seem to imply, it's the computer in your head. It is the part of you that processes information, sorts data, and estimates probabilities. When you see clearly, you're seeing from your adult. When you speak without coloring your words with emotion or distorting them with some prejudice, you're speaking from your adult. I get it. As I learn to see and hear like a Martian, what I'm really doing is developing or strengthening my ability to see and hear from my adult. That's right. What about my other two parts? Your other two parts act as a memory bank for the first two, although they often develop personalities all their own. One stores information, the other stores feelings. What are they called? The one that stores information and acts as a memory bank for the adult is, interestingly enough, called the parent. This is because much of the information stored in your parent came directly from your mother and father, your own parents, when you were very young and unable to process data quickly with your own adult. This information is often in the form of rules, regulations, and instructions on how to do things. This doesn't constitute all the information in your parent, but it constitutes that part of the information that you yourself haven't thought through, which is what gives your parent its own special character. I'll bet that a lot of this early information in my parent is really incomplete or inaccurate, since I never got to think it through. It certainly is. It's full of prejudices and other beliefs and distortions that are not grounded in fact. But didn't my parents think it through before they passed it on to me? Not necessarily. Much of it came from their parent and had been passed on to them from the parent in previous generations. They never got to think most of it through either. And what about the fourth part of me, the part that stores feelings? This part is called the adapted child. It's recorded all the feelings your natural child ever felt, and it remembers the situations in which you felt them. When these situations reoccur in your life, it often replays the early feelings automatically at the same time that your parent is replaying information about what to say and do. This often happens so rapidly that the average Earth person is unable to distinguish between his natural child and his adapted child, or between his adult and his parent. He thinks he's responding spontaneously and actually processing information, when what he's really doing is responding automatically by playing a recording from his past. His responses are programmed and automatic. Oh, this must really cause problems. You bet it does. Many people who are prejudiced, that is, operating from the parent, think they're actually processing information and operating from their adult. Many others who feel depressed or frustrated and maybe operating from their adapted child believe their discomfort is natural and can't be changed. But how can it be changed? The memory banks act like tape recorders. The tapes can be turned off. New tapes can be inserted. I remember you said earlier that Earth people could change their feelings, but that they didn't know they could. I thought you were crazy at the time, but now I think I see what you were talking about. You meant that they can turn off their tapes. Yes. Not many Earth people recognize they have these separate parts, do they? No. Some recognize that when they get angry at someone, the anger comes out from a different part of them from the one that later apologizes. But that's about all. Oh, that's really an awesome power to have, to be able to recognize the tapes. It's even more awesome to be able to turn them off, to rearrange them, and to sort out your prejudices and beliefs, and to think through all the aspects of your own life that you've previously ignored or blocked out. This is unbelievable. It can help me in two ways. I can see people around me more clearly, and I can see myself more clearly too. Right. The thing that intrigued me the most is the way we got into this by talking about how one part of me was hiding something from the others. This is absolutely fascinating to think that a person can go around with one part of him not knowing what the other parts are doing. It happens all the time. That's why most people don't become rich and happy. Their parts disagree and pull against one another rather than pulling with one another to obtain their mutual goals. You mean if all my parts agreed, I could become rich and happy? Yes. Whoa, this is almost too overwhelming. I think I'll have to stop for a while and let it all sink in. That's fine. You've learned a lot. We'll talk some more later. Elements. This chapter introduces the rudiments of what, in transactional analysis, are called ego states. My explanation differs somewhat from traditional TA teaching in that it gives full status to the adapted child as a separate ego state or part of the personality. I found this basic model to be unequaled as a tool for achieving personal clarity. Of the many hundreds of people I've personally used it with, I found that all of them could easily distinguish between their ego states once they were acquainted with the process. This is a skill you can learn for yourself as you continue reading. It will become immeasurably valuable to you as you continue to examine your life plan and as you alter it in order to become rich and happy. One of the most important things you can learn from this book is the difference between your adult and parent, and between your natural child and adapted child. Many people succeed quite well in school and even in business through adapted child responses. At some point, however, they often find this method failing them and they have no place to turn. Because of a lifetime of adaptation, they have difficulty breaking through the barriers of clarity, which requires the desire and energy of the natural child. You have to want to do it. Once you know your natural child, however, you will more easily be able to get on with the business of getting what you want. Very few successful people achieve their success through adapted child behavior, and those who do are not very happy people. Seeing these four ego states as separate parts that alternately surface and resurface and alternately agree or disagree, or even hide from each other, can provide you with a much clearer sense of how you operate than just about anything else you'll ever learn. These parts are separate. Although you'll experience each of them as being you might think that they should automatically agree with each other. But there's nothing that says they have to, and in fact, they frequently don't. Most of your own life plan will be reflected in how and when your ego states surface, what they have to say, and how and when they deal with each other. The disagreements, differences, and blind spots will be particularly useful to note. People whose life plans lead directly to wealth and happiness have ego states that agree on almost all key issues. Their parent contains all the things they should do, and their natural child enjoys doing them. Their adapted child doesn't resist or interfere, and their adult processes all they need to know at a speed necessary to accomplish these things. To obtain riches, your goal will be to achieve this same efficient compatibility.